Hello everybody, this is Jerry Mateo Thamada. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Kiive Audio M5133 mastering equalizer. This is clearly an emulation of the Focusrite Blue 315 MK2 mastering equalizer, pretty much looking like a one-to-one emulation. You even have the ability to link the channels. You can have mono, stereo, or mid-side because it was a 2-input unit, and instead of it having it just straight across, you have it each sectioned off in its own section. What makes this a little bit different though is you have multiple types of saturation that you can choose from by using the sat type: transformer, tape, and tube. This has very distinct sounding tones and can be dialed in by turning on the saturation mix knob and the on button. You have third and second order harmonics that you can generate. Even if you bring these all the way down though, you will get harmonics, and this goes even higher when you crank up the input gain and use the output gain to make up for this. Now keep in mind that I am using a beta version of this, so I do not have the cool stuff like gain linking, but that will be in the final release. It always is. Kiive Audio is really good with that. Now we also have stereo width control, which is going to have 0, which is going to make it mono, or 150, and it's completely variable between the two, and 150 is going to make it super wide. You can double click to make it 100%, and you have your oversampling, your A/B sections, your undo redo, your resizing, all your options. Now this is left, right, stereo, or mid-side, so you can link and unlink and change anything however you wish. When you hit relink though, each parameter will link back up to where it was before. The next thing is the EQ bands. This is a very simple plugin to look at. If you go from left to right or top to bottom, you'll see that it goes from high and low pass filter right here. You have a phase inversion, and you have your dB octave slopes right here. Directly under that is going to be your low frequency section, where you're going to have either the ability to have a bell or shelf. You have your Q knob, as well as your frequency selection. Each band will give you plus and minus 10 dBs of gain, and this is very, very smooth gain. And keep in mind that these bells do not actually match completely. So when you boost and when you cut, it will be a little bit different. You will never get a full null, which is very cool because the original unit was known for that. It was not proportional in every single measure. Another thing that is really cool is your ability to have this high button on every single one except for the high band. This is going to basically bring the EQ band up by a couple of octaves and give you more range. So normally your low frequency, low mid, and high mid frequency are going to start from 20 hertz, 39 hertz, and 560 hertz, and go up to 160, 270, and 3.9K. And you hit the high button, this will individually make every single one of them go up. And now we have it at 100 hertz, where it was once 20. It'll go up to 770, which is huge. Low mid is going to start at 180 instead of 39 and go up to 1.2K versus the 270. High mid is going to go up to 2.7, started off at 560, and end off at 18 kilohertz. The high frequency shelf and bell does not have that option, but I don't think you really need it because it already goes down to 1.3 kilohertz and goes up to 22 kilohertz. You have your Q control right here. To the left is going to be wide, to the right is going to be tighter. You have your saturation mix control. You just turn it on. You can dial in how much saturation you want and bring in third or second order harmonics. The next thing is the solo button. This is very interesting because it will actually solo up each individual frequency band, but only really playback audio when it's showing you changes. So we'll do this with the high and low pass filter. So what you get from that is you're hearing the changes that you're doing, not the actual bands itself. Now this is actually really cool because let's say you find a frequency band. I'm just reloading the plugin. Let's say we find a frequency band that we don't like, right? And we're not sure where it is. We'll solo it up and we can sweep across and find it. Bring it down. And it's that easy. And as you can hear, this is a very smooth sounding EQ. It sounds fantastic. The next thing is I want to show you the saturation. So let's actually grab this, slap it on the drum bus. bring it back. And we're not going to do any processing, right? We're just going to turn on the saturation. And I'm going to crank this input gain and bring this down. Bypass. Now that's the tape saturation. Let's try transformer. Tube. Notice how the tube saturation has a little bit more excitement in the higher frequencies. It really helps the low end kind of continue and sustain very, very well. While the tape saturation is very mid-forward, and the transformer just kind of farts out a little bit easier in the low end, but has a really nice crack. I love using transformer for snare. I love using tube for the mix bus, and I love using tape for stuff that I want to have like some more grit, something like guitars. Let's show you how this sounds in this mix. So I have 4 instances of the M5133. I have one on my guitar, drum, bass bus, and my mix bus. I'm going to bypass every single one of them, and let's listen to this song. This has literally nothing else on it. If we look on my other screen, the basic mix is just kick drum has 2 Kiive audio plugins, the flick channel strip and the golden 58. The snare has the lunchbox for the reverb, literally only the reverb. I'm not doing anything else. I've bypassed the lunchbox amp completely using the golden 58 and the flick channel strip. My overheads have Infuse and the Distinct Pro before that. And then the room just has Infuse. I love that thing. Okay, and yeah, there's nothing on the guitar. It's just one bass knob plugin, the Trivium bass knob. That's it, nothing else. And the guitars is, one of them is the raw guitar that came out of my Axe FX, and the other one is a DI with the amp knob on it, and that's it. It's just been time aligned, no other processing whatsoever. So let's turn on the EQs, and then we'll bypass them all completely. That's a massive night and day difference, right? A huge difference. So let's start off by listening to the drums. I'm going to bypass all processing so we can hear just the M5133, and let's bypass it. Here's the drums. It sounds a little smaller when I have it bypassed, and it doesn't have as much impact. You'll notice that I'm cranking up the gain by almost 6 dB using tape saturation, and I have my mix knob all the way up. I've turned down the saturation for the third and second order harmonics just a tiny, tiny bit because I was getting a little bit too much breakup in the low end. And then on my high pass filter, I am using 39 Hertz at a 12 dB octave slope. I'm doing a little bit of a cut of 1 dB at 123 Hertz. I'm going to make this 2 dB. And I'm doing another cut at 1.7 kilohertz, and that is a minus 2.7 dB cut. We have a 6 dB boost at 74 hertz with a pretty tight Q, and then I'm doing a 4 dB boost at 16 kilohertz with a relatively middle Q. I mean, listening to this, you can really hear how we have impact and we have a little bit of tone shaping really going on. The kick drum doesn't sound as flubby, and it basically has a little bit more focus. Let's check out the guitars. This is going to be pretty massive. So we're doing a big cut at up to 88 hertz, another cut at 15.5 kilohertz with the low pass filter. So we're cutting low end at 88, high end at 15K, both 12 dB octave slopes. I'm doing a 1.2 dB cut at 2.4, and then I am doing a big old boost at 7 kilohertz. I have the saturation cranked up a little bit. I'm using tape. Let's listen to this one. On. Notice when I bypass it, we gain so much unwanted low end. And we're also using a little bit of stereo width to kind of help it move out of the way a little bit. It sounds great. Next, let's go to the bass. This is not really going to be very noticeable because I'm usually just kind of cutting away low frequencies while also adding in frequencies that I did like to kind of make it not sound like I'm heavily EQing it. But I am cutting at 55 hertz, cutting at 15.4 kilohertz with a high and low pass filter, a big old wide bell boost at 118 hertz, a cut of 2 dB at 1.1 kilohertz. That's a tight Q. And then I have a boost of 2.8 dB at 9 kilohertz. I am using mostly third order and bringing back the second order harmonics. And I am cranking it up using the transformer saturation. Let's listen to this. It's just giving a little bit more grit and a little bit more growl. And if you really hear it, it's kind of making it more consistent. The next thing is the mix bus. Now this is going to be the most interesting. I have changed this into mid-side mode. I've cranked this up by adding a little bit of stereo width, but I'm also doing some mid-side EQ. So I'm boosting at 100 hertz with a shelf of 5.5 dB. I'm also boosting at 1.3 kilohertz by 2.8. And this is going to add a little bit more snare whack, right? We're cutting 2.6 dB of 120 hertz. And then we're doing no low and high pass filters. We're doing a boost of 1.6 dB at 6 kilohertz. And then we have the harmonics set to noon. We have nothing going on. We're using tape. And yeah, then we're doing the mid-side section, right? So the side section is going to be a boost of 5.5 dB at 14 kilohertz, a big wide cut of 5 dB at 90 hertz, and then I am using another cut of 1 dB at 800 hertz, and then a 6 dB boost at 900 hertz to kind of boost up the guitars. So listen to the snare. Listen to the aggressiveness of the snare whack and the center frequency fill. Listen to the kick drum and listen to how wide the guitars sound. The guitars are going to sound wider, but also fuller. The kick drum and the snare are going to have more impact, but also be cleaned up. Let's take a listen. Really listen to that snare. It has a completely different tone to it. Listen to the snare right now. I'm going to bypass it, listen to the snare, I'll bring it on, and you can really hear it. It has a lot more impact. It's kind of hitting you harder. The guitars also sound wider. Now, let's actually bypass all of these EQs, all of them, right? And let's see how it sounds in the mix, and then we'll bring them all back in. And I have gain matched this mix, and the only limiting I'm doing is nothing. I'm just using the Waves L3 low latency. I'm not actually doing any gain reduction. It's just for gain in general. And it sounds great. Sounds fantastic. It's very smooth. At no point does this sound super harsh. I think if I was going to ask for anything, it would be for linked gain controls, but we all know that Kiive Audio does that automatically. This is a beta version, so that isn't there, but that's always on, so pretty much anything I'd ask for is already going to be added. Anyway, that's it for this video. I will leave a link down below. It is not an affiliate link. It is purely my opinion. I really love this thing. I actually use it a lot on tracks, individual tracks, even though it is a mastering EQ. It's low on CPU, very, very efficient, and sounds fantastic. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. This is Jeremy with the DAW. Bye.